The streak of great horror movies by YouTubers continues with Obsession. We all know names like Jordan Peele and the Philippou brothers, but director Curry Barker is now another comedian turned horror master. I loved this movie and thought it was really good. However, looking online, people say this is the best horror movie of the decade. While I disagree with that, I still think that there's a lot to like here. Just fair warning, I am going to be talking spoilers here. The thing that I appreciated about this film was how much inspiration it took from other movies. Nikki standing in a corner that's so dark that you can barely see her is straight out of Hereditary. And in that same scene, her movement was pulled directly from Pulse. And this isn't something that they were trying to hide either. In many interviews, Curry Barker and Indy Navarrete talk about pulling character inspiration straight from Pearl and Hereditary. I don't think it's a bad thing to use amazing horror films to help create something of your own. Speaking of Indy Navarrete, she's absolutely the star of this film. I'm sure you guys have scrolled endless and endless pages of clips of her performance, and that doesn't even scratch the surface. From the beginning to the end, she is just electric. From playing this sweet and cool bestie in the beginning to a shocked and traumatized victim by the end, she stole every scene that she was in. And the inspirations that I was talking about are very apparent here. Every emotion was to the extreme, and that entire spectrum of extreme emotions took this role up a notch. I think Curry did a great job at making Bear a very insufferable character. He's one of those nice guys that is really good at hiding he's a nice guy. There's very early foreshadowing where Nikki is talking about writing a book. Her and Bear have a disagreement about whether it's a love story or romance. That basically sets the stage for everything that happens from there on. Bear has this idea of Nikki in his head that he just can't let go of, and while obviously not intentional, he takes her autonomy away from her. Once she becomes this idea, then all of a sudden it's too much for him. And instead of Bear trying to fix the situation or help Nikki in any way, he decides to continue taking advantage of her. And I think that that's the main moral dilemma of this film. And all the way through the end, Bear still can't face the consequences of his own actions. Even when Nikki is begging Bear to kill her, he still continues trying to live life like it's normal. I think overall he was a really despicable character and extremely well written at that. Going back to Nikki, it was crazy to see her kind of pop out every once in a while, where in the middle of her acting manic and over the moon for Bear, her real side would show through. It made me really, really sad knowing she was just stuck in there. And of course, the ending was sad as well. It made me really upset that even after everything that had happened, Bear still couldn't do the right thing. Obviously, being faced with the decision that he had to make in that moment, I'm sure it was still hard, but he put Nikki through way more than that. And reading some articles on this movie, there was actually supposed to be another ending where Nikki dies. I do prefer that she didn't because she had already been through so much the entire film. And I thought it was really satisfying the way that she pushed Bear's body off of her after he died. I like speculating what happens to her after the movie ends. How does she explain the situation away? Does she get committed somewhere? I love open-ended endings, so this one just hit the mark for me. Now, this film was absolutely scary. The last horror film that I watched was Hokum. Now, this is definitely comparing apples to oranges, but Hokum had more of a slow burn creepy style, where Obsession had more of an in-your-face jump scare-esque horror. Neither of them were bad, both of them were great in their own regard, but Obsession used the inspiration from other films to its advantage. I called out earlier the dark corner scene where you can barely make out Nikki's face, but you know it isn't right. Then her movements in the background and in the shadows was really crazy. Obviously, there was the big jump scare where Bear and Sarah were in the car. I noticed in that scene that Sarah's window was completely clear while Bear's had rain on it, so I was definitely prepared for something to happen, but they did an amazing job of lulling the audience to sleep. Everyone in my immediate vicinity audibly gasped and screamed when that jump scare happened. That was also one of the most brutal scenes in a horror film that I've seen in recent memory. Now, all the horror aside, there was also some really good comedy here. There was plenty of awkward scenes that were really funny, specifically the party scene. I laughed when Bear was just dissociating while Nikki was acting insanely manic. And one of my favorite lines in the entire film is when Bear's friend says, "Hey, I've got $1 billion out here. Overall, Obsession was a really fun time in the theater. Watching this with an audience was really great, and I recommend for any of you that still can, go see it in a theater. This film has such a good balance of so many elements that I feel like it's going to be endlessly rewatchable. I'm glad that this one got a lot of really good reception because it certainly deserves it. I gave this one a 4.5 on Letterboxd. For those of you that watch this, I want to know what you guys think happened to Nikki after the end of the movie. Do you think that she gets caught? Do you think that she takes those $1 billion and runs off somewhere? I love theorizing on movie endings, so definitely let me know. And as I often do, I want to hear from those of you that may not have liked this film. This is another one of those movies that I can't imagine anyone disliking. As always, I appreciate those of you that have watched to the end of this video, and make sure that you argue with me in the comments.